Hello, my name is Joshua Keith, and this is theburningcoal.com, a website dedicated to God's glory, His grace, and our response to it. Today we have a new Monday motivation, and we're going to be looking at the Beatitudes. And we're getting near the end, and Jesus is going to give a very difficult beatitude for us to live by. Now, up to this point, Jesus has said some very challenging things. He's asked us to change our image of ourselves, to understand that we are poor in spirit. He's asked us to change our priorities, that we might focus on being righteous and holy, that becomes not only something we want to do, but the thing that we want to do. He's asked us to forgive others, to even become peacemakers. But if we're not careful, we might take a look at all the things that Jesus asks us to do here and think that this means that it's going to be an easy life. The idea of blessings means that really, it's going to require change of habits. It's going to require some difficult things from us, but will it really be that hard? Unfortunately, Jesus understands that it will be, and he tells us about that, tells us that these blessings that come from following the Beatitudes does not mean that we won't face any difficulties on this earth. In Matthew 5:10, he says, "Blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven." Jesus is making it clear that if we follow him, if we follow in his footsteps, follow his example, that we will be persecuted. Now, at first, this does not seem like a blessing at all. But what we see is that when we are persecuted, it's because we are like our God, like our Savior. And so because of that, ours is the kingdom of heaven. And so it is okay for us to be persecuted. It is okay for those bad things to happen to us. That doesn't mean something is wrong. That does not mean that God is unfaithful. Instead, it means that we are following in Jesus' footsteps. And so for the things we want to focus on this week, the Monday motivation, I think the first one is that we actually are following in Jesus' footsteps and we are staying righteous. One of the reasons why Jesus was persecuted is because his life, his teachings, everything that he did was in stark contrast to the darkness around him, to those around him that were living in sin, that were unwilling to submit to God. They couldn't look at Jesus and see that he was the same as them. When they saw Jesus, what they saw was a repudiation of everything that they were and all the ways that they acted. If we are not any different than the world around us, then we're not going to be living out this beatitude because we're not going to be persecuted for Christ's sake. They're not going to be threatened by us. They're not going to think that there's a problem. And this is not saying that we are being offensive for offensiveness' sake. This is not saying that we're trying to cause problems. Our study in 1 Peter has been very informative, that in fact we should be doing just the opposite. We should be as submissive as possible. As much as within us we are trying to have peace. But because we are righteous, because we are unwilling to bend on the truth of God, persecution will come. And when it comes, whatever form it may be, whether it be through mocking, through not being able to maybe get the career path that you were hoping for, whether it be actual physical persecution to the point of death, whatever form the persecution may take in our life, we need to be willing to withstand. That is us staying strong and not saying, oh, okay, well, I was in this with you, God. You asked me to change my habits. I've changed my habits, but this is too far. Things are too hard now that people are turning against me. No, we're not going to do that because we have a faithful Creator. We can trust in our God to get us through. We know that whatever happens in this life is not the end of the story, but instead, there is something better waiting for us. And so we're going to stay righteous, even if it costs us things, even if it costs us relationships, even if it costs us prominence, even if it costs us our lives, because we trust our God. And so every day we need to be building that trust, building that faith, because we don't know how and when we're going to be asked to act on it. I hope this lesson blesses you in your walk in His kingdom.